Is there any route telling me what's it going to cost?
Okay. Does anybody want to tackle that one?
I think council
Who wants to know what it will cost
Independent.
independents in general? Why can't anybody tell what it will cost
The set-up cost of independence is going to be about £200 million.
over
No,
10 years?
the eventual cost, how we got paid for it, the NHS and all that.
Right.
stuff.
Right, tax.
Right, okay. You want to
I'll go first with that one. Well, I've generally been told, and I've looked into the economy quite a bit, because obviously me being Labour Party, I had to decide what my vote was going to be. And obviously me being I'm the only one that works in my house. Actually my husband's a house husband, because we were left with £20 of his wages after childcare, so it seemed really silly to have somebody looking after my children. So I did look into economy and what it was going to cost, and I was willing to take a minimal hit, but I can't possibly take that much of a hit because I am on a budget. Scotland, at the moment, for what we have, what they offer, so that's free prescriptions, free education, we generate enough tax per head already to cover that in Scotland. Actually, we generate more than that than the working people in Scotland. So that's us out doing work every day and paying your tax. Once that doesn't go to Westminster and it goes to our government instead, they have that money straight in the pocket. That is what's going to pay for that. That doesn't take into account your whisky revenue that flies out of Heathrow, so it's counted into London's. Your oil revenues, which they keep saying is depleting, but most people that work within the oil industry keep telling me there's huge oil fields everywhere that Westminster won't plough into. So, I mean, we're not counting those things when the Scottish Government aren't already counting those things to give us those things, and that's getting a portion of what we pay tax per head in this country back, because it goes to Westminster and they give us a cut back. So we already generate enough money to get what we have. So what they're going to add, what we add to that as a country of what we are actually making and what we are sending out and what we have in natural resources, is just more and more money on top of that. Plus you won't be renewing Trident. And you know how much Trident's going to cost.
Cost thousands of jobs as well.
It's not going to cost thousands of jobs. They're planning to keep those jobs.
Yeah.
They're keeping those jobs. It's going to be a naval base.
Right, Trident actually creates, if you're talking about Scottish jobs alone, approximately 800. You're saying thousands of jobs. There are people that work at the base that don't actually live in Scotland. They travel up to the base during the week and back home at the weekend. So the actual Scottish jobs dependent on Trident are approximately 800. The plans are to turn that into the Scottish Naval Base rather than a nuclear base, which will actually end up creating another 400 additional jobs on top of the 800 that are currently there already. So if you follow the white paper and the government plans there, it will create more jobs. The defence spending of the Scottish Government out of our pocket is approximately 3.2 billion. Of that 3.2 billion, only 1.4 billion is actually spent in Scotland. The rest of that 3.2 billion is spent in England. So when the Scottish Government says that their plans are to decrease in defence spending down to 2.4 billion, they're actually going to be spending all of that 2.4 billion in Scotland rather than the 1.2 billion that's currently being spent in Scotland. So it will be an increase and it will increase jobs.
But can I just say that I don't want to hit you with lots of figures, because we give you figures about how much better off we are in terms of public finances and how much more we get in terms of tax per head of population, etc. But just remember this, we are a richer country than the rest of the UK. We have sufficient resources to pay for what we've got and a bit more. And that is not counting all of the additional revenues that we'll get from North Sea oil exploration that's still to come. So that's it in basic terms. That it's not, if you just look at it in terms of, we are actually got a better gross domestic product per head of population than the rest of the UK, and therefore we've got a bit to spare.
One of the questions when we ask about the finances, a lot of people will ask me, why should I vote yes? And one of the answers that I quite often give them, and I don't know, it is a very simplified answer, is that your pay packet at the end of the week, instead of putting it into your bank, hand it to your next door neighbour and tell them to give you what you should have to live on, and they can keep the rest to spend for you if they see fit. And what they'll spend it on is HS2 and Crossrail.